We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Saturday when you're listening to this. We're recording it Friday afternoon. And as always, we have Ed with us today. Everybody looks forward to hearing from Ed. I look forward to talking to Ed. It's always a free and easy show. And we've got plenty to talk about and plenty to learn from Ed. So, Ed, welcome back to the show. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, I'm always glad to be here. I've got some background stuff on tariffs that I'd like to pass along. Of course, we both have the Minnesota connection, so the shooting is
Yeah.
uppermost in our minds too. Things going on at the CDC, skullduggery, and that sort of thing.
Lady from the Fed.
There's always good stuff going on to comment on. Most of which we wish we didn't have to comment on.
Well, before we get into that, I just want to do kind of a fluff piece, if you will. I look at it as a
Yeah.
fluff piece. Maybe some people don't. You're somebody of TikTok, and I'm on TikTok, and a lot of people who listen to this have been on TikTok. And every so often, there's a viral story that comes across, and it goes crazy, and people are upset, or people are happy, or whatever it is. And there was a viral video that, if you're on your For You page, you see it over and over again. And it's a story that came out on the publication Wired. And in this publication, it said that left leaning influencers, liberal influencers, were getting paid dark money, maybe as much as $8,000 a month. Now, I don't know about you. I haven't gotten a call. No call for me.
Now, Soros hasn't been in touch. I'm sorry.
The thing that,
And I saw that there is a much better documented study that says right-wing influencers got money from Russia. So, it tit for tat, whatever. But, Google that. That's pretty sure that does happen, continues to happen, did happen in the past. Left-wing, and I doubt it.
well, the thing about it is that was my point. They come out and try to make this splash, this gotcha thing, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but um, we know for a fact it's been documented that there are right wing um, podcasters and right wing influencers that have been paid like millions of dollars
Yep.
directly from Russia.
Yep.
How that's not a bigger story, I don't know. Now, with regards to the liberals, I've heard people talk about it. In fact, one of those influencers is a founder of the corporation or the nonprofit organization that's doing this. They're saying it's basically trying to support other influencers to make a mark in social media to at least compete with the Republicans. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't care. But what troubles me is that there are people out here, even liberals, that are going, well, I wouldn't be mad if he disclosed it. Disclosed it. Disclose. Has Sean Hannity disclosed who's paying him? Has
Mhm.
Tucker Carlson disclosed who's paying him? Does Shrimpy, the beautiful little bulldog that spreads love and joy on TikTok, do we know who's paying that bitch? No, we don't. It doesn't
Exactly.
fucking matter. But I'm going to tell you what the real story is here. You can talk about liberal influencers getting paid either by dark money or a nonprofit, and you can be upset about that. But here's the real story. I'm going to reveal who pays me on TikTok. Total transparency. The people that pay me on TikTok, TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok pays me in the creators fund. But here's the real story. I get paid by TikTok. I've done this for 5 years. I've done the same amount of videos, same type of videos, same way. Do you realize that with all that's going on now with the sale and Trump's influence on TikTok, this month I get paid 1/4 of what I got paid 3 months ago? And you know why?
Nope.
Because I'm doing liberal messaging, because
Ah.
I'm talking about the left side and I'm talking shit about Donald Trump. So you're going to whine and cry about liberals getting money for whatever reason. I don't give a shit who gets paid what, and they don't have to disclose it to me. We got one simple thing. If you don't like them or you don't trust them, don't motherfucking watch them. Don't
Yeah.
watch them. This is TikTok. This isn't fucking the FCC and everything else. If you don't expect a large percentage of what you see on TikTok is bullshit, you're fucking fooling yourself. But again, I'm not complaining about the money because I don't really do this for the money. I have enough money. I'm cool. I don't have a problem with it. But you can complain about people paying liberals money, but it's really compelling. It's really interesting that TikTok pays me less now for doing the same thing I've been doing for 5 fucking years. That sounds like suppression.
Oh,
That
I'm
sounds
sure
like
it is.
suppression. And to me,
And
that's a bigger story.
I've had people actually message me and say they're shadow banning you, Ed. I'm not seeing your stuff like I used to.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's a thing or not, or if it's a myth, or if it's just part of the algorithm. I don't know what's going on, but I can see it. I mean, when I used to post something on TikTok, like what I'm doing right now, I would get, 3 to 5 thousand initially, sometimes up to 50, 60,000 in a week on one post. I'm lucky to break 3,000 now. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's something going on. I'm not sure what it is. I understand they're also coming out with new regulations that will prohibit you from, for example, criticizing a political figure. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't bothered to read them. I'm just going to do what I do, and if they want to ban me, they can. And there's plenty of other platforms out there that I can be on. I'm not getting paid. If you folks would all like to go to @HollerTroll on TikTok and become my follower, then I probably would. But I'm not pushing that. Go do it now.
No, no, no. That's the thing. There are people out here that earn their living doing this,
Mhm.
and uh, that's what I'm thinking of. In terms of the people that do the liberal stuff that are getting suppressed or oppressed and getting money taken away from them. I feel sorry for those folks because they're not doing anything wrong. They're just doing what they're doing, and TikTok and all these other media outlets are just bending a knee. TikTok even came out and said, "Yeah, we're changing the rules, but it's only temporary."
Yeah,
And presumably, what they're saying is until we get the deal done with Donald Trump, we're going to suck his ass until we get the deal done. But I got to be honest with you, once it's done and they cut the deal, the fact that they
that's
might go back the other way, I doubt that.
I doubt
I
it
can
too.
doubt that.
Now, the other piece of this is I'm hearing this all the time now. The protesters who are out there chasing ICE away and standing up to them and throwing the occasional sandwich and something like that. They're labeling these all paid protesters, and they have been doing this ever since Trump first opened his mouth and declared himself a candidate. Everybody who speaks out against him is a paid protester. Well, and it always is George Soros who's paying. Well, he would have to have he would have to have all the money in the world in order to pay all the protesters, even if he paid them $5. Let's
Yeah.
face it, there are no paid protesters, zero, at least on the liberal side. We know that the right wing influences are being paid by Russia. We know that when Fox News got rid of Tucker Carlson, he didn't miss a beat. He's still high on the hog because he's being funneled money primarily from Russia, I'm sure, but from
Yeah.
other right wingers as well. So yeah, just remember conservatives are always guilty of what they accuse the left of doing. Always, whether it's pedophilia or whatever, they're the guilty ones. And you can see it every time you see a high profile person arrested for child pornography or directly being a pedophile. They're always a Republican, always a conservative, and usually religious.
Well, and it's important that people take responsibility for themselves. First of all, anything you see on mainstream media is either a lie or not the full truth or not the whole story. You've
Yeah.
got to be adult enough to discern that. When you're watching social media, there aren't the guidelines that you would expect on mainstream media. So there's a lot of bullshit on mainstream media. You got to be a big boy or big girl and pull up your big boy and big girl pants and discern what you're watching. Look into what the people are saying. And if you find it's not true, idea, quit watching it. Go look for those places that give you the information you know is true that you resonate with and deal with that. Don't expect people to be perfectly honest or perfectly above board because the vast majority of people you see in mainstream media and in fucking social media are not honest, decent people. I'm sorry to tell you that, but that's a fucking fact.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the places you can trust. because we don't get our primary living from doing this. We do
True.
this, Mike and I, Mike, who does a lot more than I do, but we're doing this simply because we have concern that the country is slipping into fascism and an oligarchy, a kleptocracy. All of these apply, and mostly an idiocracy right now.
The main reason, the primary reason I do any of this is simply because of my 5-year-old granddaughter and my 3-month-old grandson. I'm an older man. I'll be an old man, and I won't be around when they're adults trying to navigate through this life. And I can only hope that I can do whatever I can do to hopefully make it better for them when I'm not around to help out. So that's the only reason I really do it. It's kind of cathartic too to get this shit off my chest. My family's tired of hearing my shit. So there's people out there that are maybe hearing it for the first time or don't mind hearing it from time to time. I get it off my chest and I feel better after I do that.
People have asked me, why do you bother with this? You don't have any kids. Well, I don't have to. I mean, I come from a very lower class economically lower class people, sharecroppers on both sides. So I saw what my relatives went through in the past. I was lucky. I managed to avoid that. I managed to get an education. I managed to um, get above my raisin, as they say here in the South. But I still see so many people who don't have that opportunity. I want equality. I want economic equality for everyone. I want political equality for everyone. And that means women and minorities and poor people. I want us to thrive and survive. I was lucky enough to be born in the time where that was possible. I was born in 1949, just the beginning of the golden age of America, which roughly is 1948 to 73. The average person could get a job and create wealth and own property and pass it on. And then along came the Republicans and Reagan and all of the heritage foundations and all of that, who are doing their best to make sure that never happens again. I mean, I hearken back to the Reagan administration when one of his advisors, Freeman, I think his name was, said, we are in danger of establishing an educated proletariat, and we can't have that. Proletariat, that's you, okay? Educated, maybe, but they don't want people educated who understand how the system works and want to make it better for everybody. The oligarchs, the rich, they hate you. They despise you. You're good for only one thing, and that's cheap labor.
True. Now, the reason why, in spite of the fact that Ed doesn't have children, the reason why he does this and is because he possesses a rare commodity in this day and age, a rare commodity, and that is compassion for other people, whether they're related to you, whether they're in your state or whatever. And that compassion brings me to the topic at hand that was been the biggest story. And it's sad to say that it happened here in Minnesota, where I live, where you used to live and are probably going to live in the not so distant future. We had this school shooting um, at Annunciation Church and School in South Minneapolis. You live there, I grew up there, so there's a lot of close ties here. Um, to hear that story, that surprised me, and it kind of shook me too, because that area of town isn't like a sketchy part of town or a problem
No.
area. It's a nice area. So to have something like that happen just totally threw me off kilter.
Well, I'm familiar with that neighborhood. I lived not super close to it, but I could get there in 5 minutes. Let's put it that way. And
Yeah.
Kinney School, which is a Minneapolis public school, is very near there, and I was there at least every 2 weeks, sometimes every week, with a program I had called School News. And so I'm familiar with the neighborhood. It's a quiet working class neighborhood. You know, some people various incomes, but a nice neighborhood, and that I would never have expected. Well, it happens everywhere anymore. One thing I want to just say about it real quick is that the possibility, I don't know if the kid was trans, if he was fighting that, what the deal was. We know he was Robert, then he became Robin. And so the right wing is very quick to say, okay, he was trans, so all trans people are dangerous, they're murderers, because we've had two now. The shooter in Nashville at a school, I believe, was trans. But let me put it to you this way, okay? There were there have been 9 school shootings that it has been said that there might have been a trans connection. Only 2 of those have panned out to be true, which means out of the hundreds of school shootings that have happened, it may be thousands now, I'm not sure of the exact number on it, but it would translate to trans people being 0.57% of the shooters, 0.57%. Those are of the confirmed trans people. The rest, straight, white, cis males, okay? Usually right wing. I don't know if there have been any left wings or not. I haven't really parsed that. But that's who the shooters almost always are. Otherwise, the trans 0.57, the rest straight cis white males. Okay. And so the right wing is going to be pushing this trans thing, but it's quite simply not a factor. We're learning more and more about what was in this kid's head. But let me put it to you this way. If you realize that you are a person who's going to be discriminated against for the rest of your life, that the people in power say should be eliminated, that pushes you in a direction mentally where you do not want to go, okay? Where we don't want people to go. And that we need to talk about thoughts and prayers too, but I'm sure you have other observations on it as well.
Well, I had somebody tell me, suggest that it's transgender and they're dangerous, which is fucking ridiculous. Like you say, there's been 2 that we know of that have been transgender and involved in mass shootings. So if you want to tie transgender folks to the violence, we have to look at the fact, as you pointed out, that 99.9% of all the school shooters were white heterosexual men. 99% of all serial killers are white heterosexual men. Pedophiles, these 99% are white heterosexual, presumably, at least that's the role they play in public, white men. So if
Did we
sex is an
pause? Did
issue,
we pause for a second, Mike?
yeah, we can pause
Okay,
for a second.
I got to run out. I'll be right.
We took a quick pause. You didn't know we took a quick pause because I paused in the recording and back just like that. Um, what I was talking about was that 99.9% of all the major crimes where people are killed or abused are done by 99% white, presumably heterosexual males. So if we're going to be concerned about transgender, I think we need to be really concerned about white males who role play at least being heterosexual, because clearly they're the most dangerous.
Yeah, I think I roll it around in my head, and what I come up with is that most shootings like this are from butthurt individuals who see their privilege being violated. They believe that they are entitled, quite frankly, to control everything. And if they see any encroachment at all, if they see, for example, a mixed race couple in a commercial on TV, they lose their shit because
Yeah.
this is an encroachment. This is saying, well, interracial marriage is just fine. And anything that encroaches upon their province, they are against. And this begins to build and build and build. So they decide to go out and take back their privilege by killing the people that they believe are somehow causing this encroachment. And that's what it boils down to. That's where privilege is. It's this idea that something is being taken from you, that everything is a big pie, and if somebody else gets a slice, that means you get a smaller slice. That's bullshit. Okay, total bullshit. But that's how privilege works.
The Republicans are out here trying to explain this away. Oh, it's transgender. They're saying it's not about guns.
Mm-hmm.
And then they tried to pivot by saying, It's about mental illness. Well, that's
Hmm.
rich coming from you because all the care for mentally ill patients was taken away in 1980 by fucking Republicans. You've refused to fund anything to do with mental health, and now you're saying it's not guns, it's mental health. Well, it's about people who don't get the care for mental health, and they're allowed to get guns because anybody can get guns. If that mental health patient or somebody who's suffering can't get a gun, well, they can't fucking do it. Guns are the issue. There's no question. Anybody can get a gun. And people say, well, this state has strong gun laws, but they still have a problem, like Chicago. Well, of course they do, because every state around them has the ability to get guns, and you can drive 20 miles and be in fucking Chicago or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
so that's why it needs to be a federal mandate as to how we handle guns, because every state is different. Some are more lax, some are more stringent, but the lax states will get people who go into the stringent states and cause problems. It's got to be a federal issue if we really want to keep everybody fucking safe.
Yeah, on your phone, you have or on AOL anyway, you have the um, memories feature where it shows you what you were doing 10 years, 15, 20 years ago, whatever, however long you've been
Right.
around. Well, yesterday, one popped up for me, a post that I had made, and it goes, quote, I thought I was seeing a well-regulated militia at Walmart, but it just turned out to be a few guys, a few idiots with guns. So yeah, that's this is an ongoing problem. Remember Texas when we had all of this. We can't talk about it right now, but we're going to make every school a hard target. We're going to get mental health care. We're going to stop rape completely. All of these things. They did nothing. They did
No, they've done nothing.
absolutely nothing. And they always sends their thoughts and prayers. Well, Minneapolis Mayor Fry came out and said, no, no, not this time, not thoughts and prayers. And Jen Psaki, the former spokesman, White House spokesman for Joe Biden, said the same thing. And they're just being pilloried on by the current White House spokeswoman and others on the right wing media. They don't believe prayer works. They don't believe prayer works. Well, guess what, fuckhead? No, it doesn't. It hasn't. So shut up. Just shut up.
Well, here's the point. I'm not, I do have some beliefs, and I
No,
do have
no.
occasion to pray. But here's the thing: these kids were shot while they were legitimately
Right.
fucking praying.
Exactly.
It's not that praying is horrible. It's that that's not the answer to fix it. That's an excuse so you don't have to fucking fix it. Don't give me your thoughts and prayers. We've had dozens and dozens and hundreds of fucking school shootings. And after every one, people think, well, they'll do something about it now. But Congress, Democrats and Republicans have refused to do anything. Oh, it's too early to talk about it. We can't do this. And the only reason they don't talk about it, Democrats and Republicans alike, is because of money from the NRA. They
Yes.
prefer the money over the safety to the kids. So fuck you with your thoughts and prayers. Give me your thoughts and prayers, but that ain't going to fix it. You have the power to fix it, so fucking do it.
Right. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm going to just elaborate on this a little bit. The idea that right wing people in general, maybe others, seem to think that there is this completely powerful being they call God, who every movement of our lives is pre-planned. I've heard that since I was a little kid. God has a plan for you, but does that mean when two parents take their kids to Disneyland and he's eaten by an alligator, that was God's plan for them and their kid? No, it doesn't work that way. I'm not going to say, because I can't, that God does not exist. Okay, I don't want to say that. I have many friends who are deeply, deeply committed to Christianity, and they do wonderful things because of that commitment. But no, God does not control everything you do. If he did, or she did, or it did, or they did, whatever, then this would be a utopia. No, that's not the way it works.
Well,
There maybe
I,
there's an overall plan, but quite frankly, if there's a God who's this is his plan right now, what we're seeing, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't want
Well,
that plan.
well, it's funny how people will say God has a plan and he's doing this. Then why did he give us free will according to the Bible?
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
can't have a plan if there's free will. And that's the point. God is in everything and God is in us. It's up to us to do certain things, do the right thing, find the answers. This is almost a training ground to learn how to fucking do things and get better. Unfortunately, there's a bunch of people in this country and in this world that are more worried about getting worse. And it's real easy to say, well, it's God's will. Are you telling me it was God's will to have some person go out in front of a church and shoot children in the church? That's not God's plan. I don't give a fuck what you talk about. This is something deeper, and this is about people being responsible for themselves. Now, this person who was mentally ill probably, I don't know that you can hold them account if they're mentally ill. But what we do with people with mental illness and what we do with people getting guns is the fucking problem.
Yeah.
We deal with
Yeah.
problems. I mean, if you're building a house in the 20s and you used asbestos, right?
Yeah.
Then you find out asbestos gives you cancer. So guess what? In the 2025, nobody uses asbestos anymore. And why? Because it fucking causes cancer. So you learn a lesson every time you go along. And if you can fix something, and we'll talk about the whole CDC thing too, because that's another issue along those same lines.
Yeah.
It's our duty to deal with these things and not just say God's going to let us do whatever we want and he's going to control everything. Clearly that's not the case because
No.
God didn't make a plan to shoot little kids in a fucking church.
No. And
At
if he
least the
did,
God I
he's
know of.
yeah. If he did, he's not the kind of God I'm going to pray to. I
No,
guarantee you
absolutely
that.
not.
The also, I'm glad you brought up asbestos because the Trump administration is trying to lift the ban on it.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You Google it.
Seriously?
Seriously. Seriously.
What's the point of that? Nobody is going to use asbestos if they lift the ban because there'll be lawsuits after Donald Trump is dead and fucking gone. If people start dying of cancer, why would a building company use asbestos after all these years not using it, especially since we know it's dangerous?
I do not know. I can only assume they want to get rid of all regulation. And I really truly believe that is true. They want to get rid of all regulation. I've been revisiting Howard Zinn's People's History of America, United States, which everyone should read. Everyone should have a copy of it because it tells the truth. What the Trump administration is trying to do is go back to the 1880s where there was no regulation and where tariffs were used. Like a good example would be like steel. Okay, we were producing steel in this country a very laborious way. It took forever to do it and so forth. But the steel producers in this country went to England and looked at their process, the Bessemer furnace, which made it much easier, much quicker, much more economical. So they came back home, built their own Bessemer process furnaces, and then had the government, which they bribed to do this, to put a tariff on steel coming into the country. So they became very, very rich, very, very quick because they had the market. Nobody else could make steel. They were doing it. So they want to turn back to that point where people with money can get anything done that they want. And they can create a market for themselves that you cannot bring in outside competition to it. So there are people who I guess you mine asbestos, right? I mean,
No,
I'm not sure of the
I don't even know.
process. Yeah. But there are people who have holdings, of course, that once it was banned were worthless, but they still have those holdings. So they want to be able to exploit them. That's why
Well,
somebody somewhere gave Donald Trump some money. And believe me, he gets a cut of everything, some way or other. This is a kleptocracy. It's not a democracy anymore. And Donald Trump is the recipient of most of it.
but along those same lines, we have this situation with the CDC. Donald Trump appointed a head of the CDC like 2 months
Mhm.
ago,
Yeah.
2, 3 months ago, appointed her. And then RFK Jr. comes out and says, look, we're going to restrict those people who can get um, the
The
COVID
COVID.
vaccine,
Yeah.
which makes no sense.
No.
Um, and if you remember in his confirmation hearing, he was asked directly, are you an anti vaxxer? And he says, I'm not an anti vaxxer. Well, he lied to you. Everything he's done before and everything he's done since says he's an anti vaxxer. So now he's going to limit who can get the COVID vaccine. Now, even the person that Donald Trump appointed to lead the CDC said, wait a fucking minute. That's stupid. That's crazy. I'm not signing off on that. So then they said she's going to get fired, and then somebody said she resigned, and then Donald Trump says she's fired. And I don't know. She may still be in a position there, but this has caused the CDC to be in such an upheaval that at least 4 or 5 other major people in the CDC have just fucking quit. They
Yeah,
don't
they
want to
just
be a
walked
part of
out.
this mess. So we have a CDC that was absolutely very essential to this country's health and future. And I'm hearing people saying we don't have a CDC anymore. We can't trust anything that comes from the CDC. And I don't know that people understand how serious that is.
Well, they don't. And her name, by the way, is Susan Monterez. And
Right.
I believe she was handpicked by Bobby. I remember
Yeah.
Trump saying that Bobby picked her and she's wonderful. She's a terrific person. And she said, I'm not leaving because he can't fire me. That is Bobby Kennedy, who's the
Right.
one who tried to fire her. Now, Donald Trump can. Whether he's done it yet or not, I don't know. Anyway, she's apparently suing and saying that she gets this big payout if she leaves. So who knows? I'm sure they'll manage to get rid of her, and you might as well kiss the CDC goodbye at that point. The only chance we have is and it's a slim chance, and that's to win the midterms and then start to undo a lot of this by congressional action. Now, in sufficient quantities that we can override a veto. However, I'm beginning to suspect that this red state army that Trump has imported to Washington, D.C., which is out spreading mulch right now, as opposed to fighting crime, that they're just waiting there so that he can arrest Congress when and declare the election null and void and declare a war against somebody, so he can claim wartime powers and say no more elections. That is very possible. And very possible, more than I would almost say for sure, based on his past. And the only thing that can save us is his own mortality.
Yeah. Yeah. And he may get some help with that. I'm thinking there are people even on the right side that are going, wait, what the fuck? I mean,
Well,
because over and above
already
this.
he's getting pushback on the CDC from the right as well. We should
Oh,
we
yeah.
should point that out. We'll give
And
credit where credit is due.
well, yeah, he's going to get pushback against this because let's be honest. If we have another COVID, if we had COVID when we had COVID and there was no CDC, there'd probably be 5, 10 million people dead from COVID.
And not only that, but the CDC and so forth, we have two things going in Florida everybody needs to know about before they go on vacation, and maybe South Carolina too, because it's close by in the sense of, the uh, big increases in malaria, which I have not heard in the United States
No.
as a threat for years and years and years. That's Panama Canal shit, right? The other
Right.
one, the other one, are you ready for it? You ready? Leprosy.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, leprosy
Uh,
is up in. I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought that's third world backwater shit. Okay, no, it's happening in Florida. They'll try to blame it on immigrants, but remember, there's no immigration now, right? That's all
no,
been
yeah.
stopped.
Well, and of course, the whole measles thing, Bobby said that would
Sure.
just go away, and it's got nothing but worse. I mean, there were measles in the 60s when I was a little kid. I never got measles. I think my brother did. But since that time, there's been no measles because, I don't know, something crazy like a fucking vaccination.
Yeah. Well, see, I had three different kinds of measles when I was a kid. I missed most of first grade. Three kinds of measles and chicken pox. It was wonder. It was a wonder that I learned how to read and to cipher to a certain
Cipher, yeah.
to the extent that I was promoted to second grade. But it took me about 4 years to really catch up because I missed so much of first grade. We didn't have kindergarten back then, but I had pretty much every childhood disease you could get. I didn't get mumps till eighth grade, but I had them. I had them all, and so
I
did my brother.
I had chicken pox, and back in those days, if one kid got chicken pox, they put all the kids together so they got it all at once. I
Yeah,
don't know if that was a good idea or not, but chicken pox, we got through it. It was a little fucked up. Um, the but I remember very well being in grade school, and at different points in the year, you'd line up in the gym, and there'd be nurses there with the vaccination guns, and they
yeah,
go boom, 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 boom. And this is why when people talk about vaccinations, oh, they cause autism, they cause whatever. Look, I've been getting
bullshit.
vaccinations for 65 years.
Yeah, me too.
At 65 years old, they say you can get this vaccination, that vaccination. I get every fucking one of them. And you know what? I'm healthy. I've
Yeah, me
taken them
too.
for 65 years. Explain to me where the problem is. Now, Bobby says he's going to announce in September that they found out what causes autism. This is going to be interesting. It's
Mhm.
going to be interesting to see his data that proves it. There won't be any data that
No,
proves shit. And he'll probably
nobody's
say
studying it.
vaccinations. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody. The person he assigned to be in charge of this is a moron. Just like him. They have no gravitas, no credential to be doing this at all. What they'll do is they'll do an AI search of the internet and they'll come up with some crap that they've already decided and that these marginal doctors are pushing. The behind it all, the Peter Thiels and people like this, I think they've realized to get what they want, which is robots doing the sweaty stuff and AI doing the intellectual stuff. There's no work left for the lower classes to do other than pick vegetables. And they're even working, they're saying the robots will take care of that as well. Or, they'll make it a work requirement for Medicaid or whatever, but that's not going to last. Sooner or later, they're going to have a huge population of people that there's no work for them to do, not even picking vegetables. So you lock yourself away in your hideaway in Hawaii or wherever you've built it, and you let nature take its course. I really think that's what they have in mind. It is something so dark that our minds can't even wrap our heads around it. But the mindset that could do that is the same mindset that had the church and the king living in castles and lavish church quarters in the Middle Ages, while people literally starved to death outside the walls.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed. That is still
You,
the same mindset. A human life to them is worth only what they can glean from it. There has
so
no
maybe
intrinsic worth.
maybe we need to have what happens naturally start now, going after the villains in this story. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that could ultimately happen. We've talked about we have to fix this for ourselves. We have to um, take the bull by the horns, and the people of this country have to try to fix the situation. And unfortunately, that could mean some violent times in this country. I mean, I hope it doesn't get to
I
that
hope
point,
so too.
but you can
But
understand how it might as things keep getting worse and worse for people living day to day.
well, yeah, let's go back again to the 1800s, late 1800s, when the oligarchs ruled before, when a few very rich people had all the money and everybody else was pretty much a slave to them in one way or another. Um, let's take the Transcontinental Railroad, for example. This was a big deal at the time, and it was pushed by
Yeah.
business, it was pushed by the oligarchs so they could move their product. Okay, that's what it was all about. And they bribed, and they would go to if you follow the railroad across the country, it was they would go to municipalities and extort money from them in order to put the railroad line there or spur lines and so forth. The railroad was built by the Chinese coming from the west and the Irish coming from the east. Large immigrant populations who were used to hard work and both of whom were highly vilified. Okay, this was the work they could get. 200,000 of them minimum died because of the safety standards they used, which were none. Um, and that's what they want to get back to. This is their ideal. And don't let anybody tell you that they have any sort of altruistic feelings. They don't. The average person probably gives more in charity than the Bezoses and the Musks and all of these guys. Certainly as a
Oh, no question.
percentage, but probably an actual fact.
Yeah. While we're talking about the CDC, I want to talk about the other thing that is similar but different too. It's Donald Trump trying to fire Lisa Cook, who is on the board of governors in the Fed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Republicans are getting a little hinky about this too, because that has a much, I won't say it has a much larger ramifications. It's a different ramification, but it's the one thing that Republicans are most worried about. They don't care about people's health, they care about money. And the idea that Donald Trump might have the power to fire somebody who's on the board of governors. These people get terms of 14 years. And the reason they do that is because they want to keep the stability on the Fed.
Yeah.
They control what's going on with the money, the value of the dollar, the economy of this country, and it affects the economy of this world. They don't want things to be shaken up. So now Donald Trump isn't getting what he wants out of this situation, so he wants to fire this woman. He really has no authority to do it, but that hasn't stopped him before in trying to do things. Um, they're going to court to see if Donald Trump has the power to do that. Now, the Republicans are even saying, don't fucking do this. Don't fucking do this. It'll crash the economy. It'll wreck everything. But Donald Trump doesn't listen to shit, as we know. So it's going to be interesting to see what this judge says. I would have to suggest the judge is going to say, no, you can't fucking do that. And then is the real test. It will ultimately go to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court has always kind of sided with the Fed on their independence, but this is a different day. We've got Donald Trump involved. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with this situation because they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. They're
Mm-hmm.
kissing Donald Trump's ass, but they know that this is stupid and could destroy the economy of this country and maybe the world. So I can't believe Donald Trump hasn't backed off this. The people around him haven't got him to do that. But so far, he's still pushing forward with trying to fire Lisa Cook.
Yeah, I don't think I'm hoping that that doesn't work. Let's jump back a bit. What was going on right before the Great? Well, let's don't even go back that far. Let's go back to the Great Recession. Okay, that we both lived through that. Young folks, you were probably kids. You probably don't know what went on there, but basically, what caused the Great Recession was in large part because financial institutions were able to create worthless paper that they then use monetized, and ultimately the worthless paper proved to be worthless. So a lot of things crashed. The insurance industries, the banks, the car companies, all of these were either collapsed or on the verge of collapse. But then Obama was elected. He came in, and the Democrats fixed it, just like they always do. This is the same thing that happened before the Great Depression, allowing the financial industry to create worthless assets that eventually collapse. That's happened in both cases, and it will happen again. The Fed was created to bring stability, to not let that happen, to rein in banks and do that sort of thing. But and there were other, of course, institutions that also do that, all of whom who have been either sidelined or crippled or some way. with the current administration. So the collapse is inevitable unless we change course. Now, I think the Depression actually saved this country in the sense that we were on the verge of a revolution, I guarantee you, during the Depression, because people had nothing left to lose. The Democrats, FDR and company, realized that, and they realized the only way that could be headed off was to diffuse the communist spirit that was, running rampant across the country, saying, let's chop off a few rich heads. I mean, it was going in that direction. So they
Right.
started to, the institutions that started to let the average person begin to create wealth, and they created the golden age of America, 1948 through 1973, where that was possible until the oligarch pushback started again. And that's where we are again. We're that close. We're that close when the economic collapse starts, and it will be worse this time than it was last time. So try to make your plans now because it seems to be almost inevitable that's going to happen, and the wealth that you have built up can disappear overnight.
Right. Now, the thing that amazes me, when Donald Trump was elected, I thought, well, the Republicans will push back. They won't let him do anything too crazy. I was fucking wrong about that.
Mhm.
I admit it. Um, but when it comes to people losing their wealth, it's not just the middle class like us.
No,
That will cause the wealthy too.
yeah,
What point does the wealthy say, okay, you fucked up the whole country, but when you start talking about taking our money and just throwing it out the window, this has got to stop. There, you would think there's going to be some kind of pushback from the oligarchs, from the corporations, from even the Republicans in Congress, that they can't allow this to happen for their own security.
I don't think they know that. The ones who do know
Seriously?
that,
How
the
do
ones,
we know that?
because we look at it. They only look at what's happening with their bank books, their investments, and so forth. Whether you've noticed it or not, and I think we have. Like for okay, 1949 is when I was born, so I began to be aware of stuff. Probably let's say 10 years later. When I'm around 10 years old, I look around and I see basically what's going on is one segment of the economy is making things and selling them to people, and the things associated with that, moving them to market by train or truck or whatever. It's that kind of commerce going on. Okay. The other thing is the service side, your doctors, your lawyers, and that sort of thing. They're getting money for services they provide, right? Well, in my lifetime, I have seen it go from that to the manufacturing and so forth, outsourced to another country. So people aren't making money from that here unless they have money to invest. It became an investment country. Britain did the same thing, by the way, where everything became financialized so that it's money making money. An insurance company takes in money to provide a service that if you have a disaster of some kind, they will take care of it because you paid them money. But what they did is they take that money, they don't put it in a vault for you when
No.
you need it. They reinvest that money. And if they reinvest that money in like a package of worthless mortgages, which was what happened during the Great Recession or something similar in the Great Depression, that money just disappears like that. It's not real money because there is nothing underneath it. But that's what's generating money in America now is money making money and ways to find that. That's why you see hedge funds and private equity funds going after anything that generates money. Healthcare, for example, heavily involved in that right now because they can go in, get themselves involved in a healthcare provider, rape it, turn it into a dried husk, declare bankruptcy, and move on. Same thing they did with Red Lobster. They found that Red Lobster owned all the land underneath the restaurants. That's why they went after them. That's why they went bankrupt because they bought them on highly collateralized loans. And
No,
then
basically.
that's what they're doing. They're raping successful businesses and taking out the value.
So what you're basically saying is, while these people know it's wrong,
Yeah,
it's basically a financial. orgy, and
Yeah.
they're going to get as much as they can get while they still can, and hope to God it doesn't crash everybody, which is
Well, this
crazy
is
because it
what
will.
it will indeed. And that's why you saw these people jumping out windows on Wall Street when the crash came in 1929, because they knew there was no going back. Everything they had was built on lies and it was worthless. So now they are going to be selling apples on the street or whatever because they have no their everything they own is worthless or will be seized by someone else, by the bank or whatever. They became instantly poor. That's what's going to
Question
happen.
is, the question is where's the red line? I mean, where is it too far for some of these fucks that have allowed this to happen? There's got to be a bridge they won't cross. I mean, it doesn't look like it to this point, but on the verge of
Apparently,
total
there isn't.
destruction. Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Well, think back to Reagan, okay? Reagan comes in, and the oligarchs go and they shower money on the University of Chicago to come up with this flaky idea of supply side economics, which is nothing but bullshit, never was anything. But they paid these economists to come up with this bullshit thing that Reagan could go out and tout. And that's where it all began. The downfall of the American dream. And you know, it was also labeled trickle down economics. You cut all the taxes on the big guys, and it'll trickle down. It never did. They just keep it. You know, that's been proven over and over again. But this is what happens. They know what's going to happen somewhere in the back of their mind. They have to, but they're sucking up to the people who have the money, the big guys, the guys you don't even know about. There's three firms, BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street that are invested in pretty much every company there is on the exchanges, right? And in many cases, they're invested enough that they have voting rights. So they pretty much control the economy. These three, and they're in this business of constantly financializing everything. If we could bust those up, then we might have a fighting chance. But that's where it has to start.
But we can't do that as long as Republicans have any
No,
power at all.
no,
Nothing.
because they're bought. They're totally bought.
You know, it was interesting. One of the things about Donald Trump being president, he never really gets much done. He does a lot of executive orders, and none of those are law. All that can be shut down by a future president. But he did something today that I found interesting and incredibly petty and incredibly stupid. He revoked the Secret Service protection for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, people are going, yeah, you took the Secret Service away from Kamala Harris. Yeah, you did that. Yeah, but what about the lower prices? What about the lower inflation? What about
Mhm.
the war, the peace in Gaza? What about the peace in Ukraine? What about um, getting criminals out of the country? He hasn't done any of those things. It's real easy for people to pick out these little things. And this is what Donald Trump does. He'll pick out little things that make news and with the intention of making it look like he's doing something. He's like the
Yeah.
person you work with in a job and they do this stupid stuff. They make reports that are unnecessary to make it look like they're really busy. And that's what Donald Trump is doing. And the only reason Donald Trump is doing that is because he doesn't know how to do anything else. Everything with him is performative, whether it be rallies or these fucking press conferences or this stupid cabinet meeting. We got to talk about that too. That was just fucking crazy. But he doesn't accomplish anything. He just tries to make news in hopes it's going to make him look better.
Yeah. And I'm reminded of, in our own experience, of an executive who thought it was a good idea to take major donors or prospective major donors, is what it came down to lunch every week. Um, they got a free lunch, you
Yeah.
know, so did the donor. Did we get any money? Nah.
No, no money at all. But did you see that cabinet meeting that was on television?
Yeah, it's not new. I've seen something similar before, but it's just let's all fall to our knees and fluff the press.
Well, you know, one of the reasons I think he did that is because of so much that's going on right now
Epstein.
is, well, Epstein. But
Mhm.
everything else is failing. The economy's failing. Everything's failing. And he's desperate to have people believe that he's so smart and so successful. And he basically pulled these people up there and say, just tell people how great I am because I need to change the narrative. But the
Yeah.
stupid part of it is if you can't afford groceries and Lutnick says you're a great guy, that doesn't go too far.
Right. And who's the guy? Who's the real world guy? I think he's transportation, but he's also running something
Oh,
else.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I can't
Was,
think of his name at the moment, but he was on the Real World and also on Road Rules. This is the
yeah.
guy's gravitas. That's where he started out, much like Trump on reality television. What when you have guys from reality television, guys from Fox News Weekend, Judge Janine, who they sobered up enough, I guess, to get on the, to be able to do something. Linda McMahon. These are the people. Uh, these are the sideshow freaks that he's got running his agencies, his cabinet. And so, yeah, they're going to come in because they know what side the bread is buttered on, and if he says hit the floor, they're going to go how low, you know.
well, the guy who's the transportation secretary is Sean Duffy,
That's
who
it,
is
Duffy. Yeah,
who's some reality star bro who doesn't know jack shit about jack shit. I don't know if you know this. You know, Elon wanted his special guy running NASA,
yeah,
and then
that's
Donald
NASA. Yeah. Mhm.
and then Donald Trump booted him out to stick it in Elon's face. Well, temporarily, he's made Sean Duffy in charge of NASA too.
Exactly.
So
That's well,
he
that's
was
where I
doing
was
such
going
a
with
great
that.
job at the transportation department that they put him in charge of NASA too. And
Yeah,
this is a perfect example of the incompetence from top to bottom. And it's not just Sean Duffy. He's got like 20 people that worked at Fox News in his administration. And
yeah,
none of these people know anything. And we're starting to see some pushback with that. You know, we're looking at the military uh, basically going after Hegseth because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's a lazy drunkard who just fucks up constantly. And then, you've got these financial guys out there trying to tout these tariffs deals. But now I'm hearing Donald Trump's running into a problem. A couple of things happening. Donald Trump canceled the de minimis policy. I don't know if you know what that is, but
yeah. That's where you used to be able to go on Temu and spend less than $800, and there was no tariff on it.
right,
So eight
that's
hundred
gone.
dollars, yeah, and then there was another level between 800 and 2,500 where it was minimal, but above that, then all the whole schmear kicked in, the whole tariff deal kicked in above 25 and well above 800 really, and so that means your Temu order is going to go up by double digits.
Well, that and over and above that, if you can get the order,
Yeah,
because countries all over the world have said, yeah, we're not even dealing with that shit. We're
no,
not going to ship it. So
screw
if it's
that shit.
coming from Britain, from China, whatever, we're not even sending it to you. It's not worth trying to fucking figure out this minimal amount of money, the tariffs on these items that are $50 or whatever. So there's going to be a lot of people who are going to pay a lot more money because of the tariffs, or they're not going to get it, or if they do get it, the organizations like DHL says, "Fuck that, we're not doing it."
Yeah.
That's a big shipper.
Yeah, I don't think
But
that people really realize that this is going to fuck up the US for 50 years, probably until
yeah,
because so many countries have said, screw the US. We'll make deals with China. We'll make deals with India. We'll make deals here. We'll make deals there. We don't need the United States anymore. And European Union's doing it. Everybody is doing it. He is isolating us so that we will become a third world country just because nobody else will do business with us.
well, and a good example of that, of course, nobody's shipping stuff under $800 anymore.
Right.
Uh, there'll be some people that do it, but it won't just be the increase of the tariffs because they're the only people doing it. You're going to be doubled and tripled what you're buying because they can charge
Exactly.
whatever the fuck they want. But there's another part of this too. Like take India for example. Donald Trump's trying to get to Modi,
Yeah.
the leader of
Won't even talk
try,
to him.
try to work, won't take his fucking calls. And the
Yeah,
reason they won't take his calls is because he disrespected them. He tried to
yeah,
say that he worked out the war and ended the war, and he has these tariffs and nobody knows what the fuck's going on. So Modi's just not taking his calls. And he's not the only one. There's a lot of countries where he's gone, well, let's work out the tariffs. I'm a tough guy, so let's work out. They're going, fuck yourself. We don't
yeah.
want to hear from you.
We don't need you. You know, we don't need you. We were aligned with you because we were a little scared of China, but now fuck you. You're not doing us any good. You're not going to help us out. If China comes after us, we're fucked. So let's cozy up to China. Maybe Taiwan's probably saying, let's work out something. China, we can handle this on our own. We don't need America threatening. You know, you'll see this more and more and more, and it's always going to be to our detriment. We will be the ones losing because we have nothing to back it up with.
What Donald Trump is doing, this might sound crazy to you, might benefit the world to our detriment. You know what I'm saying? They're going to have
Mm-hmm.
to figure out how to deal with life in general without the sugar daddy US or the supposedly reasonably minded mediator. They can go in, they're not stupid like Donald Trump, so they can't go in for mutual self-destruction. They're going to have to work some things out. Like you say, maybe China and Taiwan work something out. The whole idea of what they wanted to do and US pushing back. Now it's at a point where they have to be the adults and they have to work some things out. If you're in India, you got to cut other deals with other people. And the problem with that is, as much as that's going on, it might help them. It might be rough at first, but it'll help them ultimately because they won't have to depend on the U.S. like everybody has. This is going to completely isolate the United States of America and cause immense fucking problems in this country if nobody can trust dealing with the United States of America. And frankly, at this point, that's the case. That's basically what they're saying. Even if we cut a tariff deal with you, you don't stick to the fucking rules. So what's the point of negotiating with you?
Exactly. And we have this mind because we don't study history in this country. We study myths. What we learned,
Right.
what both you and I learned in grade school and high school history wise, was myth. It was simply myth. We're the good guys. We saved the world. Blah blah blah. Well, we ain't the rebel alliance. We're the empire. We had gunboat diplomacy all through the Western Hemisphere where we would sail in. If we didn't like what the country was doing, we'd go in and install a new government dictator who would give us what we wanted. We did that in the Philippines. We did it everywhere. We were the empire, not the rebel alliance. Only when we got the country going were we the rebel alliance against, I'm using Star Wars motor, uh, the Star Wars terminology as a way of a certain amount of the people can identify with that. People who grew up with Star Wars know exactly what I'm talking about. When we started the country, we were the Rebel Alliance against the Empire. The British Empire, right? But over time, we became the empire and we started to lord it over other people. And we hate when people push back against that. But at
Yeah.
this point in time, like take Vietnam for example, the thing was, well, the communists are conquering everything, and they're gonna soon it'll only be all of Southeast Asia will be communist. What happened? We fought a war, we lost a lot of people, we left in disgrace, and then gradually we reconnect with Vietnam. We start investing and so forth, and eventually, is Vietnam communist now? Maybe a name, but no, they're capitalist economy. That's what they are. We could have done that and nobody would have had to die.
Yeah, exactly. Um, the fatal flaw with Donald Trump and Republicans is if you know anything about negotiations, um, it's always the threat or the uncertainty of what could happen. You know, if you don't do this, I'm going to put tariffs on, or I'm going to do this. The
Mm-hmm.
moment you blow your wad, you lose all your power. And
Yeah.
that's what Donald Trump has said. And that's why these people are saying, fuck you. What can you do now? You did the worst thing to us. So fuck it. We have to deal with it. We don't like it, but we're not afraid of you anymore because there's nothing more you can fucking do, save for send any nuclear weapons over or attacking us somehow. And he doesn't have enough wherewithal to fucking do that shit. So he's already pulled the trigger. He's already blown the wad. And now he doesn't understand why nobody wants to fucking deal with him because they don't have to. You've already given them what they feared the most. And now that they have it, they got nothing to fucking lose.
Yeah, and it's going to take, I don't know how many decades to set all this right. But remember, uh, all of the countries that now we're pissed at because of what's going on, we created. American industry said, fuck Americans, they want too much money. Fuck unions. We're going to Mexico. We're going to Guatemala. We're going to Vietnam. We're going to China. They created this.
Right.
Our own oligarchs created this situation where we have to import because we can't or won't do it domestically. And sooner or later, the sooner or later the economy is going to hit something they can't recover from. Remember, the Depression lasted not just 10 years, it lasted probably 15, 20. And if we hadn't had World War II, it would have gone on longer.
Right.
Uh, so this is something that can last a long, long time. And the Great Depression wasn't just here; it was a worldwide thing too. So remember that it won't be worldwide this time. It'll just be us, and it's been engineered by the Republican Party and the oligarchs that own it.
It absolutely has. And like I say, you would hope that some people with some intelligence would see this coming. Like you say, you don't are they so close-minded and they're all so self-serving that they're not even thinking about the ramifications. I know when I walk into a situation, like if I'm having problems, my wife and I aren't getting along. There's a lot of things I could say. I know her better than anybody. But before I say something, I think, okay, if I say this, it might be a good shot now, but what's that going to do to me next week and the week
Yeah,
after and in the
yeah,
future in general and our relationship in general? You got to have some fucking foresight. You got to
yeah,
think about what you're saying or doing. And that's not how Donald Trump behaves. He's behaving just like a narcissist. They burn bridges and scorch the earth every time they open their mouth and they're mad at somebody. And Donald Trump is perpetually mad at somebody because somebody's pushing back, and he doesn't like people that have the audacity to push back on him. It's he's not in a position to win. All these threats are the things that could cause him to win. But the moment people start saying "fuck you," we don't care. We think you're a joke. I mean, Gavin Newsom came out. I think Gavin Newsom's doing a great job as far as getting in Donald Trump's head. I think that's
yeah.
the only option for us now. All the other crimes and criminality and corruption hasn't stopped him. Getting in his head and making him feel insecure and inept, which is what he is. That's the way to do it. Gavin Newsom made a comment. We were talking about they're not mailing anything here, they're not taking phone calls. Gavin Newsom made a great point, and I hope Donald Trump heard it, that he talks to a lot of world leaders, and these people are basically laughing at Donald Trump, mocking
Yeah.
Donald Trump. They think he's an idiot. And as much as Republicans would say, oh, they respect us, no, they don't.
Mm,
Nobody respects us. And you
no,
know what? I don't blame them for not respecting us.
right. I mean, it's like Persia looking at the Roman Empire falling apart. They weren't threatened. Okay,
Right.
they knew it was going down, and they were poised to, or the other groups, other empires were watching Rome crumble and just waiting to move in. Now, I'm seeing some things that I really like. I'm seeing that there's movement toward um, the blue state saying, okay, you're not going to help us out with FEMA. Okay. We're not going to give you the federal tax. We're just going to hang on to it. Okay. We generate it. We don't have to give it to you, so you can give it to Texas. No, we're going to hang on to it. Did you realize Texas is one of those states that gets back more than they pay in? About
Absolutely.
$1,500 per capita they get back than they pay in, and they shouldn't because they're a very rich state. It's just that they uh, income is spread out in Texas the same way it is in a third world dictatorship. The rich people get it all, and the poor people make do on whatever they can get by on, whatever they can eke out, or the big guys are willing to pay them. So they have much more need, so they get more money back. But if the blue states, and that includes Minnesota, Massachusetts, California, if they just say, no, nah, we're not sending it, tough, come and get it. We have militia too. I don't think that, I think that will have an impact when they start to see that happening. Also, the Republicans driving up the debt again, 3.3 trillion. They're adding over 10 years to the deficit. Plus, you've got all of they're not going to be having Medicaid. They're not going to be having SNAP. All of the states that are used to it, and they're going to see people rising up against that. You're seeing it already with these town halls that the Republicans are starting to have again, where they're chased right out of the building because they're trying to defend the big, beautiful bill, and people are screaming at them because they know what's coming. Now, they've delayed some of it until after implementation, until after the midterms, so they don't feel the pain until they've voted. But I'm hoping, it seems like the message is getting out there. So
Yeah.
we will see some pushback in the ballot box. We saw some just in Iowa, where Trump won by 11 points. They flipped a seat, Democrat over Republican, where it should have been an easy win.
We're seeing that a lot. What you're talking about is something people threw out into the ether about, well, if the blue states just didn't pay their money, then what would the red states do? I find out that there's a name for that. It's called a soft secession.
That's it. Yeah.
It's called a soft secession. Now, secession is illegal in this country. Soft
Right.
secession, not necessarily illegal. And these blue states, I'm hearing, I don't know if it's true, but there's actually meetings about doing this. I
Yes.
mean, it's
That's what I'm
that
hearing.
dramatic that they would do that. And the soft secession, it makes some sense. I mean, if you're a Republican and you invest in something, right? You want a return on investment.
Yeah.
So if we're paying federal taxes, but we're not getting the benefits that we would normally get from those taxes, our return on investment is zero. So it only
Yeah.
makes sense. If you want states to take care of themselves, cool, let's do that. I live in Minnesota. You got California. It may be tougher for them, but at least we aren't sending money to fucking people that vote against the benefits of the people of this country. I guarantee you, if they can pull off some part of that soft secession, people are going to be freaking out in the red states because they're going to see money drying up faster than they're already seeing it now. And they're going to be in trouble. But it's only reasonable. If you don't want to give us FEMA, if you don't want to give us help, if you don't want to give us protection, why are we paying you federal income tax? Why would we do that? And it's a legitimate question. And I don't know how realistic a soft secession is, but hopefully just the talk about it is causing Republicans to shit their pants.
I hope so. When you think about it, let's look at FEMA. Okay. Now, North Carolina, Kentucky, Oklahoma, these are red states, right?
Right.
Pretty much. They had Georgia, they had natural disasters. And Biden's FEMA went in, helped out. Some people said it wasn't enough. Well, when you got 4 or 5 things going at once, it's hard to deal with everything. But they were there. They were doing what they were supposed to do. As soon as Trump comes in, each of these states applied for extended benefits to help with recovery. He denied them all.
Right.
He denied these red states more funds. Now you got Texas. You have this big disaster, which was preventable. We know that they had received money that should have helped them be able to let people at least know what was coming and warn them and so forth. Didn't happen. Now Texas is asking Trump for more money. I'm sure they'll get it because they just did him a favor by redoing their congressional districts to give him 5 extra seats. If they do get it, that should be grounds for a lawsuit. Um,
I
but
would think so. Yeah.
California and other states are dealing with wildfires, and they have yet to receive any government help. Now, they could legitimately, in my opinion, and in the opinion of anyone who has a brain, say, why should we send money to the federal government when we need help, you don't bring it? No,
Right.
we'll save that money so we can deal with our own. And also just yesterday, and I forget which state it was, if it was California or maybe Idaho, but there were firefighters fighting fires, and ICE came in and arrested the firefighters, many of whom were Native American, by the way, not immigrants.
Right.
This is the kind of crap that's going on, people, and this needs to stop. And people need to know about it. So tell people about it, for God's sake.
Yeah, it was a fire. I can't remember where it was, but it was a fire that's been going on for a long time.
Yeah,
And this fire is only 13% contained and it's getting
right.
bigger every day. So ICE walks in, they shut down the operations. We've got a fire that's burning out of control. Whether they arrest somebody or not doesn't even matter at this point because they've stopped the people from doing the job they're supposed to do to save the property, save the land, and save people. They got them standing around doing nothing while they go through their little fucking process. They end up arresting two people. Now, I don't know if those people were legitimately arrested, but or if they were immigrants or whatever. But this is the point. They are not only not doing their job correctly, but they're hindering other people from doing their jobs. And in the process, they're putting people's lives at risk. And this is the incompetence of this whole thing. You've got Christy Nome with Homeland Security. This woman, she's too stupid to know it, but she is in trouble when this is all over. She has been responsible for so many criminal acts, from kidnapping, and the buck's got to stop with her. She's got to be held up for ridicule and for prosecution when this is all said and done.
I hope so. By the way, I just looked it up. It's Washington State, the
That's right.
Olympic National Park in Washington State was where this happened. Just so you know, we're not making it up. You can Google.
Yeah, yeah. You can Google that shit.
I just
Um,
Googled ICE firefighters and boom, there's the whole story.
Yeah, it's not hard to find. If you're out there watching mainstream news and you're hearing little stories, but you're not getting the facts, just Google that shit. You'll be able to find it, or
Yeah.
come to independent media and they will help you find it too. We're getting down toward the end, but I wanted to talk about the situation in D.C.
Yes.
We've got the National Guard out there. We've got the National Guard, some of them with weapons, even though there's really been no crime. We've got National Guard members out there picking up trash and putting down um,
Mulch.
mulch. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's fucking brilliant.
Mhm.
The problem that people don't understand about what he's doing when he takes the National Guard and puts them in a city for a week, a month, 6 months, or whatever it is, he's pulling people away from their lives, from their families, and from their jobs and putting them at risk. So these National Guard members have to go to DC, pick up fucking trash while their jobs are left hanging in the balance and their families don't have their fathers and mothers. At some point, you would have to think that some of these National Guard members are going to get tired of this situation destroying their lives for nothing.
I would think so. I mean, a lot of them go in with lower expectations than that. I'll do my one weekend a month in my meetings and so forth. I'll take my
Right.
check and I get away from home,
For a couple days.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, for a couple days, whatever. And then they wind up going to Iraq for a year. And I'm sure that probably decimated the ranks when people started seeing that happening, for one thing.
Absolutely.
And now
Absolutely.
these domestic employments, and I saw a guy this morning who's in the guard, and he says, I don't know what kind of repercussions this is going to have, but he was bad mouthing the whole thing, saying much the same thing you are. I didn't sign up for this crap. I didn't sign up to go help do this kind of thing to supposedly fight crime when there's more crime in Louisiana, in Tennessee, in practically any southern red state that you could name. The murder rate is far, far, far higher, sometimes 200, as much as 200 times higher than it is in DC, where the crime rate has been dropping over the last few years. Um, Only the loyal Vegas could possibly be um, interested in doing this kind of stuff. Um, I hopefully over time that it will start to influence them. I mean, this was a big fear back in the Depression that the army would turn, because
Yeah.
that's what happened in Russia. That's when the Russian Revolution succeeded, was when the army and navy turned on the czar because they were being used to kill their own people. They finally said, no, let's kill you guys instead.
Yeah.
So
And
it could
it's
happen
something
here.
it could
It
happen. It
almost
could
did.
happen here.
It
Well, and
almost
then
did.
Donald Trump has to ramp it up by saying, "Well, I might go into Chicago." But it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of weird because J.B. Pritzker, who is a powerful guy in his own right financially, and he's a good politician, and he seems to be a decent human being, he
And a
wasn't backing down
legitimate
from,
billionaire.
yeah, a
Oh,
legitimate billionaire, but he didn't seem to be backing down from Donald Trump, and Donald Trump seems to be shuffling his feet as to whether or not he's going to send people to Chicago. Now it's getting out in the news is Donald Trump is chickening out, and Donald Trump will do stupid shit just to prove he's not a chicken. So
yeah.
I don't know if he's going to send somebody into Chicago, but I think ultimately, if he does that, that's going to be a mistake. It's not going to go well for him. J.B. Pritzker is an intelligent guy. Chicago's a big blue town. Uh, the state is a blue state. We have the red pockets and stuff. But I don't think this will bode well. He has an unusual situation in D.C. because it's not a state and there is no governor. He has more control in D.C.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
quite it's not quite the same in Illinois, especially with somebody who's willing to push
No.
back.
Right. And I do think that Pritzker's in a pretty good position there. I mean, a lot of states you might have right wing police. I mean, let's face it, anywhere you go, uh,
L.A.
yeah, the police tend to be um, not liberal. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
Very much into force and so forth, because that's the way they were trained, if they're trained. And
Right.
but I'm hoping that they begin to see that this is not sustainable. You cannot send the National Guard into every city in the United States that you deem crime ridden. Most cities have some sort of crime problem. I know St. Paul has a crime problem to a degree. Minneapolis probably does too. I know there was another shooting not far from where the shooter shot the church, but probably gang related. Some guys were shot and killed
Right.
the night before, I guess, or it was on Saturday night, I guess. At any rate, so stuff happens all over, right? And we know why. The roots of crime are poverty. It's that simple. And until you address that, and guns, the availability of guns, if you take away the availability of guns and you eliminate poverty, which we could do quite easily, we are a very rich country. We just need to distribute it better. If we could do
Yeah.
that, we could make crime an also ran.
Well,
Go ahead.
if if we are increasing the budget willy nilly by $5 trillion,
Mm-hmm.
using that money would go a long way to coming up with a resolution for poverty. I mean, we know what we had to do was pretty simple to take a high percentage of children out of poverty.
Fine.
Donald Trump chose instead to put them back into poverty.
Yep.
Biden took them out. Donald Trump put them in. It's easy
Yeah.
enough to do. They just don't want to help poor people.
Right. And it's quite simple when you have rich people both having their taxes cut so they don't have to contribute, and at the same time getting subsidies when they're making huge profits. That's where you get your deficit. And both should be eliminated. We should get
Yeah.
back to the 1950s 70%, 90% tax on certain funds. And we should eliminate carried interest. We should do so many things that we could do that would allow us to address poverty. But we choose not to. We choose instead to say, well, it's their own fault if they're poor. Yeah, and then of course the oligarchs all start out rich and get richer.
When we were talking about going into DC and doing what they're doing and what they did in LA, uh, Donald Trump pointed out 19 different cities where he would send the National Guard in, and whether he'll ever accomplish that or not. But 17 of those cities were red states or red cities.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see what happens when he sends people like the National Guard into the red cities. Now, initially, they might think, well, we're going to get rid of the criminals. Yeah, send them in. But when those people come in and ICE comes in and does what they do in the blue cities, where they start taking out merchants and family members and friends, it's going to be interesting to see how the red states react because they're the ones that are big on guns. You're not going to see the Democrats coming out with guns and starting a war in the streets. Those fucking red cities, though, if you piss them off enough, you might very well see something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting here in my little town. We have a number of restaurants, okay? And at least three of them are what I would call high end, where if me and my wife go out, we're going to come close to $100, okay,
Yeah.
for a meal. Um, who I don't see in those places are the MAGAs. They ain't there,
And can
okay?
afford it.
Yeah, exactly. They're not there. Where I do see them is the Mexican restaurant and the Asian restaurant.
Right.
The We have a high-end Asian restaurant. They're not in there, and we have the 10,000 items on a menu Asian places that are
Right.
affordable. That's where I see them. So here comes ICE because I can guarantee you that any number of the people who work in those restaurants are probably vulnerable. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And when ICE comes to town, those will be the establishments that suffer, not the high end ones.
Yeah.
They will
Yeah.
notice that.
And there'll be pushback too. I mean, there's already pushback from Republicans are starting to feel it. They can put off those big beautiful bill till after the midterms, but with the tariffs and everything else going on, everybody's starting to feel it. And as I was saying before on a previous podcast, when gas prices go up and beef prices go up, people like you and I feel it, and we don't
Yeah,
like it. We'll somehow get through it because we're not rich, but set up in such a way where we can absorb some of that. There are people that can't even buy groceries when things were going down. They were struggling day to day just to have enough money for food. And then when you increase it, they just can't buy food. Those are the people that are going to get upset. Those are the people that are going to push back. And that's largely red states.
absolutely. And I can say, and I know this is true too, that when I go to the grocery store, I am paying considerably more. And I look at the people around me, they are also paying considerably more. And there is no way to ignore that. When I drive up to the gas pump, I'm not paying $1.98. I don't care how many times Trump says it. I'm paying 2.50. And I have a gas credit from my grocery store, so I'm paying 210. But still, that's what's going on. People have to be able to notice that. Trump said he would get prices down. He hasn't. He said he would end the wars the first day. He hasn't. Nothing he has said is true. But of course, they only listen to Fox and OAN and Newsmax, where they're telling them, oh, yeah, grocery prices are down. Milk is free. Eggs, we throw them at each other because there's so many of them. It's bullshit, and they must be able to understand that.
Well, I'm envious of you, and I think a lot of people are, paying 250 for gas in
Yeah,
Tennessee because here in Minnesota, it's more like $3, 3.15. That's what we're paying. The average price of gas in this country right now is 3.19.
yeah,
So, and that's considerably higher than it was before Donald Trump took over. So, because you were even here, we were down to like 275 or whatever. So we're
yeah.
talking about a 75 cent a gallon or a 50%, 50 cent a gallon increase. That's quite the opposite of what Donald Trump promised. And everything Donald Trump promised hasn't come through. He's got these brilliant ideas that always fail. And why we're surprised by that, I don't know. There's a guy that bankrupted at least six companies and lost more than $1 billion over a period of 5 years, as we saw in what little tax information we've seen. The guy is a consummate failure. He always fails, and he's doing it now. And there's still some dumb fuckers going, "Oh, he's doing a good job." On what?
It boggles my mind. My wife checks in with the local TV station whenever there's a Trump story. I can't do it. I get far too angry. She
I
laughs,
can't
but
do it.
I cannot do it because I don't want to engage, and it wouldn't do any good. But the things these people believe, I'm sure medieval peasants were more intelligent. Really, I mean, the things they believe. There's a lot of flat earthers. When we first moved down here, QAnon was real big,
Yeah.
and I was amazed at people I knew who were involved with that. And I shook my head and thought, what's going on here? Some of them are still into that, even though it's not a thing anymore that I'm aware of. But they still believe it. They're still there, and I think that's the problem. They're used to believing and not thinking. And once you reach a certain place, I don't think you can go back. If you don't
Yeah.
learn to think, then at some point you just don't. You just
Right.
can't. You cannot form concepts. All you can do is look to somebody else to tell you what to believe, and you go with it and you hold it dear. And that's MAGA.
That's absolutely mega. We're about at the end now, but I wanted to bring one last thing up. The Jeffrey Epstein thing is a big deal. Can't even talk
Mhm.
about it on TikTok. I'm going to talk about it on TikTok. They want to kick me off. Fucking fine. You can still find me here on the YouTube and Spotify and all that shit. I'm not going anywhere. But um, people think, and I think Donald Trump thinks he's been successful at kind of diverting from the Epstein because it's not preeminent in the thing in the news. But what he doesn't understand and what Trumplafucks don't understand, when Congress comes back, they ran away from this motherfucking thing. They're
Yeah,
coming
it's
back
going to be
next
there.
week,
Yeah,
and the Democrats are going to make sure it's there. So much
yeah,
so that they're even going to have victims testify. So
yeah.
this is going to flare up again. It's going to be in the middle of fucking everything, and Donald Trump is going to lose his shit because there's not much he can do about it. This is a story he can't divert from. He can't distract from, and it's going to come full force, probably starting next week.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch what happens I say over the next, as soon as Congress is back. Trump hasn't golfed in about 2.5 weeks. Um, he's back to being up at night, texting and so forth. And I'm seeing the inevitable collapse here. I'm seeing the Shakespearean downfall of the tyrant coming up very quick, and that excites me. Now you've got the little schmo in the offing, but I don't think he has the gravitas. I don't think he has what it takes to inspire the MAGAs. Okay, I'm talking about Vance here, even though he's one of them in the sense that he comes from uh, this background of
Yeah.
well, he called it hillbilly. I think it's not. I think it's what the hillbillies became when they moved to Ohio and Indiana. Kind of this drug addicted, out of fish out of water group of people
Right.
that he springs from. But he does not have what it takes. You need demagogues come along rarely. And when they do, they burn brightly for a short time. I'm talking Mussolini. I'm talking Hitler. I'm talking. We've had a few others in this country, but their fall is quick, it's rapid, and it's spectacular. And that's what I'm looking at. I'm not probably not before Halloween, probably before Thanksgiving, certainly before Christmas. That Donald Trump will no longer be a factor. That's that's my prediction. I could be wrong. I could be right in the next 2 hours for
Yeah.
that. I
Keep your
noticed
fingers
there's
crossed.
a new movie coming out, a documentary that I don't know much about, but it's addressing the supposed shooting of Donald Trump, the assassination attempt, and all of the inconsistencies and that went on with that. That'll be interesting to see if it gets any ground as well, because nobody has touched it. The mainstream media, I haven't seen a single story examining the kid who supposedly shot him, and how that was allowed to happen, and the aftermath of it, and all of the things that why his hat didn't move if he got hit on the ear by a bullet, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's certainly one thing that we have to look forward to.
As we wrap things up, I just want to point something out. Donald Trump is deteriorating in front of our eyes. He's 79 years old. Now, Ed here is 75 years old, just 4 years younger than Donald Trump. Take a look at a picture at Donald Trump and see what he's looking like. Take a look at Ed. Now, Ed, show us the back of your hands. Oh my God, there's no bruising. How are your
No.
how are your ankles?
Here's one.
Wow, no fat ankles, no bruising on the back. Donald Trump's in trouble physically.
Yeah.
Ed's only 4 years younger than he is, and this is the difference between a sick, sorry fuck and a healthy senior citizen. That's the fucking difference.
Yeah, I
Jesus
walk my
Christ.
dog 5 miles a day, and I mow my half-acre lawn with a push mower twice a week. So yeah, I don't ride around in a golf cart with my fat ass and hanging over my belt. That's the difference between me and Donald Trump.
And you're not wearing a diaper.
No, not today.
Not today. Not today. Well, Ed, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. People look forward to hearing from you. So I'm glad we were able to connect up. Thank you very much for stopping in and having a conversation.
Always glad to do it.
All right. Those of you listening, thanks for taking the time. I hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.